To show you which foods are best and how to find them, we asked Deralee Scanlon, a registered dietitian, to take us on a shopping tour. She's got some good advice for you.
If you're really serious about lowering your blood cholesterol, the place to start is here in the supermarket. There are a couple of things you need to know. First of all, you want to reduce the amount of saturated fat and cholesterol that you take into your diet. Secondly, you want to be able to increase the amount of soluble fiber that you take into your diet. Now, we all know that oats and oat bran reduce cholesterol, but a diet of just those two things could be very restrictive. I'm here to show you that I'm looking right here at soluble fiber. We're going to look at some vegetables that offer really high forms of soluble fiber. For instance, broccoli. Great source of soluble fiber. I would recommend this in a balanced diet to include broccoli as one of our soluble fiber vegetables. The highest form of soluble fiber is to be found in black-eyed peas. Don't forget also kidney beans. I have pinto beans, lentils. What else do I have here? I have red light kidney beans, and I have pink beans and black beans. All beans have a very high source of soluble fiber. Now, other vegetables that have soluble fiber would be carrots, zucchini, corn is another good example, and sweet potatoes. Oh, let's not forget, I almost forgot. Let's not forget cauliflower. It's another good source that you can get soluble fiber from all these items. Let's go now to the fruit department. Fruit is another good source of soluble fiber, but there are some fruit that are better than others. For instance, the fruit that contains pectin. Oranges are an example of that. In fact, all of the citrus fruit contain pectin. Grapefruit, tangerines, lemons, and oranges. Also containing pectin are apples. Be it a red apple or a green apple, they both contain pectin. They will both help you lower cholesterol in your bloodstream. Let's see what else I've got here in my shopping basket. Bananas, they'll also help. They also have soluble fiber, as do pears. Do you want to know what the champ of all the fiber in all the fruit is? Prunes. Surprised? Try prunes in your cereal tomorrow morning. Speaking of cereals, let's go to the cereal aisle right now. Most American cold cereals are not a good source of soluble fiber. True, they do make claims. You see a lot of buzzwords here where it says all bran or high in fiber, but the dietary fiber may be high, but it's not the kind of fiber that we're looking for. It is not soluble fiber. The best sources of soluble fiber are oat bran and cooked oats. I happen to like quick oats, the quick cooking oats, which only take 1 minute, as opposed to the instant, because the quick oats have no added sugar. And of course, if you want to still increase the soluble fiber content of cooked cereal, you can sprinkle in oat bran. You can put oat bran also in anything else, for instance, like casseroles or stews. So it's a great way to increase soluble fiber. Let's talk about saturated fat next. Two of the greatest sources of saturated fat in the American diet are dairy products and meat. There are a few things that I want to tell you about meat while we're here. First of all, meat has 3 grades. Prime, which is the fattiest, choice, which is somewhere in between, and select, which is the leanest. Even more important than grade is the cut of meat, because that gives you a clear indication of how much fat there really is in it. For instance, this is a fat cut of meat. You'll notice by the amount of fat. First of all, there's a significant amount of visible fat around the outside. And then if you look closely between the muscle, there is seam fat here. Seam fat is also found here. This is bone though right here, but this is seam fat here. Now we have throughout the rest of the steak, there are white flecks indicating a significant amount of marbling. All that makes a very flavorful steak, but it adds to the fat content. Now, moving along, let's pick out a lean, here we go. Here's a leaner cut. This is from the round part of the steer, which is where you want to get your, say, your sirloin. You also want to have your top loin, top round, London broil, filet mignon. All of those are lean cuts of meat. This is an example of a lean cut of meat. Notice that there is not much discernible fat around the meat. You don't see much seam fat, and there certainly is very little marbling in this particular choice. That would be a good choice for lean meat. Okay, let's see, hamburger coming up next. Hamburger traditionally has a higher content of fat in it because it's a ground meat. My suggestion to limit the amount of fat in ground beef would be to go over here, okay, extra lean stew beef. You'll notice very little fat is in this. This is also lean beef. I'd go to my butcher and I'd say, please grind this for me. Therefore, I'm controlling the amount of fat in my ground meat. I would choose this over ground meat that you find in the supermarkets. Now, with any of these meat items, you want to think about portion control. You're certainly not going to eat an entire steak, say 12-inch steak by yourself. You'd want to split that with a companion and round that meal out. You'd want to have the vegetables, some of which we've already discussed. You'd want to have a salad and perhaps a baked potato or pasta. Would round the meal out nicely. So you needn't feel that you're being deprived if you don't have a full 12-ounce steak. 4 to 5 ounces is more than sufficient. Before we leave the meat case, a few words about poultry. Yes, poultry also has cholesterol, about the same amount as beef, but the nice thing about it is that it's lower in saturated fat. Now, of all the poultry here, the leanest is turkey. Turkey breasts are the leanest poultry that you could possibly buy. Of course, we're talking without the skin. Now, if you were to choose chicken, which is also a good choice, but remember it has 2 to 3 times the fat of turkey. If you're going to select parts of a bird, I would suggest the following. The leanest is the breast, without the skin, followed in order by the drumstick, the thigh, and lastly by the wing and the neck, because those are the fattier parts of the bird. So, choosing something here from the poultry, the best choice, in my opinion, would be turkey. Turkey breast for the very leanest poultry cut. Now, let's go on to the dairy case. Since milk is such a wonderful source of calcium, it would be a shame to restrict it from our diets. Now, admittedly, whole milk is not a good choice for someone on a low cholesterol diet or wishing to lower their cholesterol. It's high in saturated fat and high in total fat. A better choice would be for someone wanting to now restrict saturated fat would be to go into 2%. Your low-fat milk is a nice transition. And for those who can even get lower, which is the best choice, is to go into your non-fat milk, which only has like 0.5 grams of milk fat. And that's what we're looking for. We want you to move from your whole milk into your non-fat milk variety. Much, much better choice. Let me show you what else I have in my basket. I'm one of those people who likes sour cream, and I don't want to have to go through life without sour cream, but there's a way that you can enjoy sour cream without all those calories, and that is by taking non-fat, plain yogurt, half and half. You cut the fat significantly by mixing the two of them together. This is my favorite department. I love cheese, and I can't imagine going through life without cheese. But there are a few things we need to remember about cheese. First of all, cheese is a concentrated form of milk. That's why 1 ounce of cheese is the equivalent of 1 cup of milk. Cheese also has a high content of saturated fat, which is what we want to reduce. So when we're selecting cheese, we're looking for a cheese that's about 3 grams of fat per ounce or less. Now, a very good cheese that I found, it's a good example of that, is ricotta. This is natural part skim cheese. When I look at the nutrition information label, it says that fat is 3 grams per ounce. That's a very good example, but I can do one better. I also found ricotta that is low-fat ricotta, and when you look at the ingredient list here, it says that fat constitutes 1 gram per ounce. Even better choice. Now, there are other choices of low-fat cheeses that would include low-fat cottage cheese, dry curd cottage cheese, Sabsago, hoops cheese, farmer's cheese, and pot cheese would all be good examples of a low-fat cheese. But I'll tell you, I also like a high-fat cheese. And I want to be able to enjoy that as well. But with a high-fat cheese, you have to limit the quantity, limit the amount. For instance, cream cheese. I like cream cheese on bagels, and I don't want to go without this. But there's a way to enjoy this. We can take a low-fat ricotta cheese, which is low in grams of fat. We can mix it with our high-fat cheese. Let's look at the grams of this, by the way. Oh, my goodness. fat constitutes 10 grams. Do you know that that translates to 90% of the calories come from fat from this particular cheese? We certainly don't want that. I don't want that. So a good way to enjoy a high-fat cheese, mix it with a low-fat cheese, limit the portion again, and we can enjoy the taste of creamy, higher-fat cheese on our bagel. For those of you who like seafood, there are some definite advantages. First of all seafood is rich in a polyunsaturated fat called omega-3 fatty acids. These have been shown to lower the bad cholesterol, the LDLs, and maintain the good cholesterol, which is the HDL cholesterol. You might take a look at this salmon steak you have here. Looks great. The salmon is a cold, deep water fish. It's a fattier fish. The fattier fishes are those that have more of the omega-3 fatty acids. So you want to choose salmon, whitefish, tuna, herring, mackerel, some cod. Again, all fish have it, but the ones I've just named are the richest sources, and you can achieve more of the omega-3 fatty acids by including those in your diet. We could clearly see the fat in the steaks from the meat department, but there's some food that has what we call hidden fat. As a matter of fact, I am standing in front of food that contains hidden fat. All of these packaged deli meats contain hidden fat. For example, turkey bologna says that it's 82% fat-free, which sounds pretty good, but let's look closer. It also is stating that it has 18% fat, but that 18% fat is fat by weight, not 18% fat from calories. I'm going to do the math here for you, and what this turns into is that per slice, there are 75% of the calories are from fat. That's a significant amount. This is a very high fat item. My recommendation would be for people who do want to have this as part of their diet to limit their consumption. Learning to read a food label is going to arm you with a wonderful tool to help you lower the level of saturated fat in your diet. So let's look at one of these labels here. Right away I see partially hydrogenated. What you want to do is limit your intake of hydrogenated foods. Why? Because hydrogenation makes an oil more saturated. Practically all packaged goods have an ingredient list or a content list. You want to take time to read this. It offers an invaluable piece of information for anyone fighting a cholesterol problem.